Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Liz. I have hopefully a quick flip through for you guys. So this is a floral themed journal. It's quite chunky. I don't think I've ever done just a strictly floral theme before. And I focus more on floral. I guess botany and floral, you could say, are the same things, but like when I think of botany, I think more antique and vintage. And this is vintage floral. So there's some similarities and some differences, but mostly flowers, flowers, flowers. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted bright colors, bright cheery colors. So this is a first for me. This is also a first with this type of cover that I've made also. So let's see what we got here. So for the closure, if I can get it off, it's a vintage pin. So you can take it off, remove it, leave it on. Of course, it's super bulky with that porcelain flower on top, so you may want to leave it off while you work in it. Over here, I set this aside. I had this on one of the ruffles, but I took it off when I was tying it. This is like a vintage floral button, and I loved it. I was gonna leave it either on a ruffle or on the front instead of the pin, but I just decided to include both. They both looked really well, so they go together now. And the closure is just some polka dotted, kind of a green mint sari color. We'll put that over there. So for the cover, I sandwiched some fabric with a piece of cardboard in the middle. As you can see, this is an antique quilt piece right here, all hand stitched. I did have to do a little repair work right here. There was a rip there, so I did some repair work there. This is some antique French lace and just some regular vintage fabric. And I also did a quilt piece on the back as well with some more vintage fabric. On the spine, which is my favorite part, this pink is an antique Victorian tablecloth, as is this piece right here. So this was all connected. So I left this piece on when I did the spine. I didn't want to cut it off or trim it off. And then this is a vintage piece of embroidery work that I got from England in a batch of vintage embroidery pieces. So I love it. I'm going to do some more spines like this. I may alter it a little bit, but I just love how pretty it looks. So, and let me point this out. So right here where the front cover meets the spine, the quilt piece wasn't big enough to go, you see that little gap right there, to go all the way to the end without me having to cut into the next quilt piece and take some of that one, which I didn't want to do. I wanted to leave each piece as whole as I could. So that was another reason why I left this little piece here. And you can glue it down, you can cut it off, you can trim a little off and leave the rest, you know, whatever floats your boat. All right, so the inside is also lined with fabric, so it's nice and durable. For the inside front pocket, we have, here is this might be antique by now. I know at least it's vintage. It's like a doily see-through one. So I cut a piece of that up. And this was a cross-stitch tablecloth. Vintage. This may have been antique. I'm not sure. But I'll use the word vintage if I'm not sure. So in this, and this is also a little pocket right here. I stuck this antique check. So put that in the first pocket. And the second pocket, I will say I used some digitals from Cassie over at Dust to Roses and Heather Ruby and Pearl XO. They had a lot of floral digitals, a lot of fantastic digitals anyway, but since I was focusing on floral items, their digitals just worked really, really well. So, and that is what brought this envelope. This is one of Cassie's digitals. So I printed the floral on some acetate. So I just used the top layer. The back layer is just clear. I was going to layer them up, but then it was just getting too blurry with the roses. So I have one layer of roses there, and I stuck this piece of ledger like inside so you can see them more distinctly. And for the flap, I just used some embossed paper that I just kind of snazzed up with some gold. I'm going to make some more of these. I really like doing that, so if my printer will cooperate. Alright, so first page. I used a vintage greeting card, and it is a wedding greeting card, but it's floral. So a lot of the older greeting cards have flowers on them, like in some form or fashion. So I got that. This is a Ruby and Pearl Heather digital. This is one of her wallpapers. Here's some vintage ribbon up here, the blue piece. Here's a tag I made. This is one of my digitals that I printed out, one of my pieces. And here's an invoice. I picked the one with the cow because, I mean, cows and flowers, they can go together, right? I didn't have any other one with an image on it that I thought was more appropriate, so went with the cow. And I put like a little tab here, so you can put a little label here if you want. Well, there's already a label. You can write on the little label there, but I think that looks really cute. I like the way it's layered up like that. And then of course this is some antique ledger. This is a little pocket. I put this let's see if I can get it out. I put this greeting card, like I stenciled this, not greeting card, playing card. I stenciled this, painted and stenciled it years ago. And of course I still have a whole storage building of stuff. I have to move because we bought a new house this past winter. So we've moved in, but I still have a storage building full of stuff. And I found another one of my totes for my craft room, and I found some of these bad boys. So I put it in there so you can slide a photo or whatever you want in here. This part, the back of it, is a piece of fly leaf from an antique book, so you can journal on that. I just wanted some color, really, so that brought some color, and it was blue. It matched the butterflies. This is from a butterfly book. You guys can see me okay. Here's some collaging. This is from an antique botanical book. The pages are super thin. They're super thin and perfect to collage with. This is some cardstock. I think this is Stamperia. Oh, here's that paper. So look at, I included a few pages from that book. So see how they're super thin? Can you see? I don't know if you can see through that. Anyway, they're super thin, like a dictionary paper. All right, here's some ledger. This is a printable from Ruby and Pearl. And I was going to use it somewhere else in the journal, and I decided not to, so I did want to tuck that in there in case someone wanted to use it somewhere else. Let's see, this is one of mine. Here is a antique French postcard from Paris, 1904. It's got some pretty flowers on it. I like putting the writing on the outside. I don't know why. This is another printable from Heather over at Ruby and Pearl XO. And this one's gorgeous. This is vintage floral. This is the exact theme that I wanted to go with. All right, here's some vintage wallpaper, and you could add your own pocket here. There's so many pockets. I felt like I was adding too many, so you can always add more and adjust accordingly. Here's some vintage sari. This is gorgeous trim. It's embroidered. Very pretty. I did some embossing there. Here is Vintage Rose Book. And this paper is also, this is from an antique ledger, a French ledger from the early 1800s. And again, this is that really nice, strong paper, that nice old textured, you know, cotton rag paper. So here's a pocket. This printable is from Heather over at Ruby in Pearl also. And I clipped this piece of wallpaper in the pocket. It was doing that thing that wallpaper loves to do, so that's why I clipped it. Here's some antique French wallpaper and a die cut. So I clipped it on there so it wouldn't flop around. Here's the other side of that gorgeous digital. Here's some antique French ledger. So you can obviously cut out, you know, a piece of ledger or notebook paper or whatever you want and stick it on here and write, you know, right over top. Imagine this is blank. It doesn't have flowers on it. You can do it with either side. So it would look cute with some little photo corners on it. It would look adorable. So when I did some collaging on there, here is it's a little tag opener. It's a tag, but it opens up. And I put, here is, well, this is a piece of antique French, like notebook paper that a kid had in school, I guess, right? And this, I thought it was cool because it had like a little map. There's Paris right there. So you got a cool little hand-drawn map of Paris in here. And this is some collage from French Agenda that I put in there. Here's the other sides. Antique ledger. This is beautiful ledger. I love the nice dark and yellow, dark ink with the yellowing of the paper. So here's the extra that I just folded in to make a flap. You can obviously do what you want with that. This was from a flower book that I was going to use somewhere, but I decided against it, so I put it in the pocket. Here's some vintage. Here is a vintage floral book page, and this one you don't have to feel guilty about using for collage because the color pages is only on one side. It's not double-sided. I always have that dilemma, which side to use, and then I end up not using any of the sides, and it sits. So here's the other side of that wallpaper printable, and here's the other side of the greeting card, and I did add some vintage fabric on the other side, but I didn't, you know, seal this, so you could obviously make this a pocket or cut the top and have some an extra writing space. This is also a vintage greeting card. I love this one. I've been saving this one so long for the perfect journal, and it's this one. I love it, love it, love it. It's acetate with a really pretty garden on it. So pretty. French Agenda. Some more butterfly pages. There's some fabric. Here's some antique ledger. Here's some more of that French Agenda that I collaged, and you could add a pocket on this page too. This is a printable from, oh, I'm not sure if this is Cassie or Heather. Actually, this might be Luna Rosu. Anyway, this is a printable, and I put a ruffle up here with two different types of sari silk. I couldn't decide which color. And this is some antique French ledger. There's some pretty floral rose pictures that you can use wherever. Here's the pocket on the other side of the antique ledger. Here's a piece of notebook, antique French notebook paper as well. This one's cool because it has some color on it and a cute little heart with like a little twig sprig going around the heart, which is adorable. Oops, I put some vintage French ledger here. This is like super embossed, so it feels really cool. I mean, not ledger, wallpaper. Vintage French wallpaper right here. This I'm not going to open. There's nothing in it, but it's like a a letter, an antique letter from London that I just kind of glued into an envelope and tied it with a ribbon. So you can store stuff in there if you want to. I'll leave it as is. Some vintage fabric. Here's the antique wallpaper belly band right here. This is an antique floral book page. The illustrations in this thing are great. They're really pretty. Whoop. There we go. It's a tight fit. Here is the center spread, and this printable is from Heather over at Ruby and Pearl too. But obviously it's got some florals. It's got a bird. It's nice and aged. Some vintage fabric with some lace. This is from a floral arranging book. And it reminds me some of, there's a glare. Ooh, that's a bad glare. And it does remind me some of fall. I was trying to stick to spring, like totally spring colors. Just like bright and pastel-y, but the green was so pretty in this picture. I could not resist. So here's some embossing right there. Here's a pocket right here. And here is an antique, like floral. This is from like a catalog, like a seed catalog. And here's a piece of vintage wallpaper. I was going to use this like to collage, and I didn't, so I put it in there. There's some more of that botanical book collaging. Here's some vintage French fabric ruffle. Yeah, that's vintage French fabric. Here's some antique lace. My sari is shedding. Let me get my scissors. I'm gonna cut that because it's gonna bother me. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, I think this is Lunar Rosu. So this was the other side of that telegram right here. I think this is Lunar Rosu. It's all one page. It was really pretty. Got really pretty roses down there. Here's some vintage wallpaper, and this belly band, I'm not going to take everything out, but there is some strips of extra wide washi, like the grid washi, so you can put that wherever you want. You can write on top of it, and it's super sticky. Like it's a peel back, so it sticks really, really good. And I also put like a vintage glassine envelope in here. Let's see if I can stick this back under here without disrupting it too much. Here's the other side of that other. There's some wallpaper collage up there. And you can, like I said, you can put a pocket here. Some antique ledger. Some more floral book page. Or floral page from a book. There's some more butterflies. It's just so cheerful. Like even when I flipped through this book, I love this book. I debated keeping this book, so that's why it's taken me a minute to even do a video, because I really, really wanted to keep this book. The size is bigger. Oh, I didn't even measure it and show you guys. Let me show you guys how big this thing is. It's big. Let me get to this. Well, let's do this. Let me stop. I put this right here. It's a big girl. So we got 7. It's 8.5. I thought it was 9. Yeah, 7 by 8.5. And the spine, I think, is like 2 inches. Yeah, about 2 inches. A little less than 2 inches. So she's a chunky monkey, and she's a nice size. She's a nice size to work in. It's nice to have these big pages where you feel like you can actually spread out. You can collage. I can add big die cuts, you know, like this, without feeling like it's taking up the whole page, because I have so much more room over here. I can add all these layers here that you can see. It's just, it's really nice and refreshing to work in a nice size like this. Over here on the other side of the greeting card, this is a stamp that I embossed with some, you know, black embossing powder. And this is one of those music, like, oh, I did. This is one of those music cards from like a jukebox that they used to, or maybe it was a radio DJ. that they used to give to the radio DJs when they sent the music. But anyway, so there's a blank set here. So it's, there's a lot of things you can do with this. You can cover one side and use it for a tag. You could completely break it into two pieces and you already have a tag because one side's already blank. You could cover this with ledger and collage here and make a tag. You could leave it open and put a photo. So you have a lot. There's a lot you can do, which is fun. It's always nice to have options, right? All right, this is an authentic French letter. I've never bound a letter into, I've never bound one of the French folding letters into a book like this. Let me show y'all what like the regular ones look like. So I did two. And I'm not going to unfold them because goodness gracious, every time I do they rip. So they're like this, you know, and then you, okay, so I will unfold it. But sometimes this one was the reason why it's not like straight at the top was that someone cut it down so it could be folded into an envelope. See? That's the reason why it's not. But anyway, so that's what I did with two of these antique envelopes like this. I just wanted to put them right in there as a page. And I had the room again because this was a big journal and I wanted to see the layers. So there's the flap, folds open. This is another digital from Heather, Ruby and Pearl. This is one of her wallpaper ones, Floral. Here's some antique ledger, French ledger. This stuff feels really good too. Here, some vintage wallpaper. Here's some more book pages. These are really light, like light pastels. And again, there's writing on the back, so there's no huge dilemma of which side to pick if you want to use a bright floral page for something. This is an antique, like, was it I think it was a floral arrangement. I love getting floral, especially vintage floral arrangement books. They have the most gorgeous images in them. This is nice thick paper too. Here's the other side. Here's some paper that I dyed. Some antique ledger. Here's some wallpaper, vintage wallpaper, vintage fabric tab. So right here is another example. You can put a beautiful pocket here. This would be a really good side for a pocket. If you did a pocket here, you could do like a little baby one here, but I don't like covering up stuff. I always feel guilty about it. Or you could do like a top pocket. This is one of mine. So this is some antique ledger. This is a nautical ledger that I printed wallpaper on top of. This is some French wallpaper that I printed. It looks really beautiful. I don't know if you can see the writing. Yeah, you can see it. Came out really good. And it's the other side of the ledger. This is kind of like a diary, like a nature's diary type deal. Here's a wallpaper tab. Pretty bird. Antique music paper, and that's just an embossed wreath. And here's I love this ribbon. This one's cool. I love the colors on that. It's green. It looks blue. That's not blue. That is a green. And even this is green. I don't know why it looks blue. To me, it looks blue. I hope it looks like an emerald green to you guys, because that's what color it is. So here's where, like, when I was scanning and scanning this to put on when I was putting the ledger through, the ledger was a lot longer. It was longer than an 11.5 like regular sheet of paper. So instead of trimming it, I just left it there. So it doesn't bother me. I like it. I like it. All right, here's another wallpaper belly band. And I put some antique ledger in here. I love using this a lot because it's the handwriting is so teeny. It's like so small. So of course it looks cool. And antique French letter. The letter's in here. Let me double check. Yes, letter is in there. Wallpaper. The other sides of everything I just showed you. See, isn't that pretty? Pretty sure it was an arrangement book. Cause see. But I like how they photograph stuff back then. You can always tell. Here is some, well, this is a wallpaper pocket right here on the back of this ledger. Or not the back of the ledger. The ledger's flipped to make a pocket. Let me just put it that way. Here's some vintage French wallpaper. This one's like heavily embossed. Flip it over, maybe you can see a little bit better. This one's heavily embossed, so this one's really pretty and fun to use. Got like a chalky green color, very light. And here's a vintage fabric tag. Ledger on the back. Like I said, this sari is not blue, it is green. Okay, just some embossing there. Here's the other side of the letter. This is cool because you can still see where the wax seal was. All right, and here's another vintage greeting card, and I chose the green one with the flower because it matched everything else going on, like right here with all the layers. So we got that. There's a tag. This is punched out of like a piece of cardstock, like Anna Griffin cardstock this one was. And this is a Cassie. This is Dust to Roses digital. And I turned that into a tab. This is some antique French ledger. This is really beautiful. Here's the other side. Isn't that pretty? Antique French wallpaper. Here's some antique French ledger. Here's a piece of a yearbook. Antique yearbook. There's another ruffle right here. These are from a 1940s horticulture catalog, like the mailing form that they give you. Put those in there. Here's an antique French postcard. It's got some pretty flowers. And this is the printable from Cassie at Dust to Roses, just the green part. This is a real piece of receipt that I put a label stamp on and cut out. But I was going to use this on a pocket somewhere, or like a tab, but I didn't, so I left it in the journal so you could use it. Some wallpaper and tickets. Here's a wallpaper page, vintage wallpaper page. This would be another pretty one to make. I couldn't make a pocket on it because I didn't want to cover up any of the flowers, but it would be very pretty. This is some gorgeous book page illustrations from a floral book. It's technically vintage. I think it's from the 90s. It would be early 90s. So here's a little lace flip, vintage fabric, and another ruffle with some antique music paper on the back. This is some of my stuff. This is some French wallpaper, some antique French wallpaper, and then I added some German ledger under it and scanned it. Here's some vintage book pages. Antique ledger. This is some vintage French floral book page. I like that spread because of the daisies. And the other sides of everything. So there is a lot more surfaces you could put pockets on and play with. Some antique ledger. This is the antique French postcard I use for a pocket. This is some antique vintage gift wrap. Right here, this whole back is all fabric. So I sewed the fabric onto the, what's on the other side of this? Onto the cardstock on the other side. And then I clipped. So this is vintage French fabric. This was extra, all right? Here's some that I didn't use. This is some vintage French fabric. Here is some vintage ticking I did not use. Vintage French fabric. And this is some pieces from a cross stitch, like tablecloth. And they're clipped in with these things. I like using these to put fabric into, to clip fabric if I didn't use it or if I want to include it, so it doesn't rip. Like, I don't want to make big old holes in the fabric while I'm putting it in there before someone else has a chance to play with it. So I think they're called twin grips. Twin grips. So they come in handy. So that is easily removable. Here's a pocket. This is from, this is one of Cassie's Dust to Roses. I'm not going to take this out. Here's a piece of vintage lace, but it's got some roses on it. And here is a vintage, like, airmail first day envelope, but it had like a little piece of weed on it. So I kind of counted that as being flowery. Here's a pocket, some vintage wallpaper and music paper. Here's an envelope that I covered with a piece of mine. There's some pretty stamps there. And a little piece of fabric. So there's the back. Just a nice heavy envelope, so you can stuff quite a bit. Here's a vintage Denison tag. And the other sides. And this this envelope I covered with the printable from Heather over at Ruby and Pearl. This is the Anna Griffin stamp right there. All right, last signature. This tab is from Cassie, Dust to Roses. This is the other French letter that I unfolded to add in. Isn't that pretty? I love the pink and the blue. Paris, just the font is gorgeous. This is from an antique book. Well, it's not like really the page, just the coffee dyed paper, and then I printed this page on top. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous page right here. That. There's some more French fabric and a piece of lace, antique French ledger. This is some vellum. I printed one of Cassie's receipts on it, light blue, Dust to Roses. That came out really good. Here's a giant, big old envelope. I think it's from the 40s. I put a folded piece of ledger in there. Here's the other side of the envelope. See, there's the stamps. Here's a little pocket, and I put an antique tag, like a real antique tag in there. I was having trouble like sticking something all the way down in the pocket, so I didn't know if like I accidentally glued like a piece of the pocket shut, so like I had to struggle with that. And here's a pocket. Here's some vintage fabric. This is a piece of like tissue paper, letter from like a letter copy book that I got from England. Well, I'm not gonna unfold it, but the writing is super pretty. It's like really nice and dark. So I'll put this back here. All right, and I just wrapped this rose picture from a book all the way around to give me two pockets. And this doily, this is a vintage doily. I was going to use it somewhere in the book, but I did not. So I put it there. This is a big pocket. Look, there's my finger. I didn't want to put anything in here because I did not want to cover up that image. It's just so pretty. So I left it. By all means, you can cover it. I just didn't want to. Showing you guys the journal. I wanted you guys to see what was back there. And then this is all embossed, and I put some gold around it, so it stands out pretty cool. Do I have something? Where's that one? Here it is. So you could put, you know, whatever. This is some antique French fabric. Then this is from the yearbook. Like I cut this girl out and put this gold Dresden picture frame around her. I like that. This is some Anna Griffin cardstock. This is pretty with the gold and the gold. Here is a leaf flash card, antique flash card. This is a piece from a French agenda. It's like a little coupon to go to the theater, and some vintage wallpaper. Some gorgeous vintage wallpaper. I love these. I love the yellows and oranges of it. This is one of my pieces that I scanned, and I just put this antique flash card right there in that lace ruffle. some antique French wallpaper, some antique ledger, vintage fabric, antique French wallpaper. Here's the other side of the envelope. And here I put a big folded piece from that McCrae's, I think it's McCrae's Needlework magazine. But anyway, I liked this big ad with the crocheting because it had a lot of florals in it. So just tried to fold this up and stick it in the side of the envelope here. Here we go. Here's the other side. See all the pretty stamps? Here's the other side of that vellum receipt. It's pretty. Here's some vintage wallpaper. These moths, they're also one of Cassie's Dust to Roses. Very pretty. They match perfectly. Here's some vintage cards that I didn't want to stick them all the way down because I didn't want to get lost. Here's some vintage lace I put down here. Here's the other side of that little pretty coffee dyed piece that I printed out. Here's the other side of the antique French letter. Isn't that pretty? And the back. So in the back, this is a pocket from an apron. I love getting aprons, old antique aprons, because I cut the pockets off and use the fabric all the time. Here's a vintage envelope right here. There's a little pocket right here that you can stick stuff. This is all wallpaper, right? And here's a piece from a French agenda. And a piece of French. This is from a poetry book that I didn't use, so I put that back here as well. There's like 2 layers to the pocket, so I gotta make sure I get the right one. All right, and that is it. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and have a good day. Bye.